Ladies and gentlemen, kindly be seated. Namaskar and good afternoon. A very warm welcome to the annual flagship event, the Gati Shakti Vision for 5G and Beyond, which is being organized by the Digital Infrastructure Providers Association, DIPA, which is an apex industry body which represents India's digital communication infrastructure industry. And the Gati Shakti Master Plan is one of the hallmark programs that have been undertaken under the tutelage of the Government of India. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we take honor in welcoming all the esteemed dignitaries, eminent speakers, to share their valuable insights on the fast-paced, ongoing growth of the revolutionizing telecom industry brought upon by the advent of Gati Shakti National Master Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, this event will be graced later in the evening by the Honorable Minister of Communications, Railways and Electronics and Information Technology, Shri Ashwini Vaishnavji, by Honorable Minister of State of Communications, Shri Devu Singh Chauhanji, the Honorable Chairman of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Shri P.D. Baghela-ji, and Honorable Chairman of Digital Communications and Commission and Secretary Telecommunications, Shri K. Rajaraman-ji. And ladies and gentlemen, today's event has 5 sessions, out of which we have 4 panel discussions, which will be on the themes. The first one being the right of way on street furniture, synergizing robust digital infrastructure with smart cities, Infrastructure 4.0, frontier for digital transformation, and integrated infrastructure development, financial opportunities. And we begin with the first panel discussion session. And I have the proud privilege in inviting on stage our very distinguished and eminent moderator for this session, Lieutenant General S.P. Kochar, Director General COAI. Please put your hands together to welcome him. A very warm welcome to you, sir. I invite Shri T.R. Duaji, Director General DIPA, to kindly join us on the stage. Also inviting all our eminent panelists, I invite Shri Sanjay Kumar, CMD Railtel. A very warm welcome to you, sir. I invite Shri Sibin C, IAS, Director and Secretary, Department of Industries, Punjab. A very warm welcome. I invite Shri Robert Sharma, Director, IT Department, Manipur. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And Shri Vijay Jain, CEO, Tower Vision, to kindly join us on the panel. So, ladies and gentlemen, the topic for discussion for this panel discussion session is right of way and policy on street furniture. And I would like to invite first Shri T.R. Dua, Director General DIPA, to kindly begin the proceedings with his welcome remarks and the keynote address. So let's once again put our hands together to welcome Shri T.R. Dua.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to each one of you, including my friends who have come from outside Delhi and also the foreigners. I think it's a very appropriate occasion that we are meeting after almost in person after more than 2.5 years. And I can see the enthusiasm amongst our colleagues and all around, whether it is a hotel, whether it is a market, everywhere there is a lot of enthusiasm. A very warm welcome to you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to DIPA's annual flagship event. And I must say, this is a very appropriate time we have done this. The year that is going on has turned to be the most landmark year in the history of telecom. I would say the many, many reforms which have come in the last 1 year time. Excellent transformative technologies, reforms at the cusp of dawn, thereby shaping the very future of our glorious industry. Just to give you a glimpse of where we are today, we have almost close to 7.5 lakhs mobile towers with over 2.3 million BTSs and supporting 1.2 billion users, and with the tele-density average around 88.4, and tenancy is around 1.6. If you have seen the recent auction which happened very recently, which yielded a cumulative valuation of almost close to 1.5 lakh crore. And it has set in motion a great scheme of next generation advancement in telecom. This also elucidates the imperative of paying heed to digital infrastructure and its issues. Let me just give you a glimpse of what all the reforms have happened as far as the infrastructure industry is concerned. The recently launched Right-of-Way Amendment Rule 2022 is a game changer for telecommunication infrastructure. We do face a scarcity of infrastructure and space availability in urban and rural area. Therefore, there are some connectivity issues. With these kind of reforms, I'm sure that we will be able to reach the nook and corner. In this regard, the new Right-of-Way Amendment Rule have transformed the landscape, which includes, beside doing the amendment into November 2016, street furnitures, smart poles, electric poles, and within the purview of the right-of-way rules for development of the small cells, streamlining, more importantly, the streamlining the approval processes, which is very, very important. Launch of this Gati Shakti Sanchar portal is a game changer again. Gati Shakti National Master Plan by Honorable Prime Minister has proven to be another super feat of the recent norm. It enables multimodal connectivity to further pave the way for deployment of robust digital infrastructure in the country. Gati Shakti Sanchar portal recently launched had addressed most of the issues which are there by putting everything online. And the number of clearances which have dropped down to almost close than 30 days, which used to be humongous earlier. The initiative, along with the urgent push for rollout 5G, has led to the multi-stake providing bulk approval. This is very important, to take one approval, you go to the second approval. Because of the densification, what you need is a bulk approval. There are some challenges which will continue because at least I have seen the evolution and revolution in this era from 2G to 2.5G to 3G to 4G and now coming back to 4G. We have seen challenges, but these challenges, the industry has always shown their commitment to do this. Most importantly, we are on track to launch everything that comes into our way into the steadfast paradigm of an ICT domain, which is just not equipped with yet 5G processes. With this thought in mind, I would now like to invite our esteemed guests are already there. I'll hand over to our MC to carry it forward. Thank you so much, Sapna.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Dua. And ladies and gentlemen, now we begin with the proceedings of the panel discussion session. But before I hand over to our moderator, I have the proud privilege of introducing our esteemed panel on the dais. Our distinguished moderator, Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochar, AVSM and Bar SM, VSM, ADC, and KIGA currently is the Director General of COAI, the Cellular Operators Association of India. In the year 2013, he retired as the Signal Officer-in-Chief, head of the ICT wing of the Indian Army. He was responsible for planning, executing, and operating all telecom and IT networks of the Army. And prior to that, he was Additional Director General Personnel of the Indian Army, handling HR and empowerment of 11 lakh strong army. He has been on numerous GCs and boards of universities, government bodies, and corporates. Prior to joining DGCOI, he was the CEO of the Telecom Sector Skill Council from December 2013 to December 2019. He holds a PhD and MTech from IITD, 2 MPhils, and has published a book and authored several articles. He is hallmarked by an out-of-the-box approach and innovative thinking. On the dais, we have with us Mr. Tilak Raj Dua, who is popularly called TRD, has a very illustrious career of over 40 years within the private sector and defense. He has been a part of this revolutionary sunrise sector like telecom, right from the time when the telecom sector was opened to the private sector like manufacturing, services, etc. He has many firsts to his credit, like the technical collaboration for line switch. Okay, sir. But yet, I would like to share few facets of Mr. Dua's professional journey, is that during the long span of his telecom career, he has got many prestigious awards recognizing his contributions towards the telecom sector, which is the MIT National Leadership Award for Industry Commitment towards Green Energy, Evangelist Mobile Infrastructure Award, and the Man of Excellence Award 2022 from Indian Achievers Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, that does call for a round of applause. Thank you. And we have with us on the desk Mr. Sibin C, who's our IAS, Director cum Secretary Industries and Commerce, Punjab. He started with SDM Jalalabad, Punjab, was the Additional Chief Administrator, Punjab Urban Development Authority, ADC Bhatinda, Deputy Commissioner, Pathankot, Executive Director, Punjab State Backward Class Financial Corporation, to Managing Director, Punjab Agro Industries Corporation, and Director Industries and Commerce and Secretary Industries and Commerce, Punjab, and in addition, the Managing Director, PSI DC, and in addition, the State Startup Nodal Officer. Warm welcome to you, sir. We have with us Mr. Robert Sharma, who has 15 years of experience in public and private sector, and currently working as Joint Director, Government of Manipur. He is the State Awardee for CM's Good Governance for Implementation of e-Office in 2020-21 and ROW Portal in 21-22. And we have with us Mr. Sanjay Kumar, who is the Director, Network Planning and Marketing and Project Operations and whose operations and maintenance, with additional charge of Railtel Corporation of India Limited. He is an officer of the Indian Railway Service of Signal Engineers, IRSSE, and joined service on November 30th, 1992. While working as an officer of IRSSE, he joined this company on deputation basis on March 19, 2002, and subsequently joined as a regular employee of the company from August 12, 2008. And has about 30 years of experience of working, including over 20 years of experience of managing projects and marketing in Railtel. And on the dais we have with us Shri Vijay Jain, who is Chief Operating Officer of Tower Vision. And ladies and gentlemen, the panel discussion will be discussing the challenges of alignment of state rules to the central government rules, as also ensuring their enforceability. Further, there is a need for legal backing for implementation of these rules. And I now hand over to our distinguished chair, Lieutenant General Kocher. Sir, over to you, sir, for your opening remarks. And the time duration is for about 30 minutes. I introduced him. I introduced him, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by saying a great thank you to DIPA for inviting me here today. It is a pleasure to be part of their celebrations. And the topic that they've taken up for this panel is really topical. And the composition of the panel is such that we will be able to hear different perspectives. We have industry with us, both private as well as government. And we have the policymakers and implementers sitting with us. We have an association head, though Mr. Dua says I'm not part of the panel, but we will ask him a few questions. So I was acutely made aware 2 days back in a discussion where I was not a moderator, but I was made aware that a job of a panelist, of a moderator in a panel, is to get the best out of the panelist and not start making pronouncements himself or herself. So I'm going to restrict myself to that caveat and not talk too much about the subject, except say that ROW has not been new. The problems have surfaced, and the problems have become more in focus because of COVID, firstly, and now with the advent of 5G. And this is where now it has assumed critical proportions, and this is what we hope to bring out in this panel. So what I propose is the conduct of the panel will be that each of my co-panelists will be requested to give opening remark of about 3 to 4 minutes each, and thereafter I will throw a few questions at them and then save some time for the audience to ask questions, if any. Right? If that is okay. Okay, so let me start with Mr. Sanjay Kumar. Can I request you to give your opening remarks?
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen here. I must thank DIPA and Dua Saab for giving this opportunity to be part of this panel this afternoon. And the topic which has been chosen for discussion today is very much relevant, as already briefed by Kochar sir. He has been on the government side when we were going to serve when he was SONC. So we had have a very good old relationship with sir. So today this this ROW and small cell requirement and street furniture utilization. So these topics not only relevant, they are actually becoming part of the system. We have started making them part of the telecom infrastructure, like street furniture, be it rooftop co-locations, and laying of cable on the along the DISCOM overhead alignments. Because we have been thinking since long, I joined this industry in 2002, and last mile has always been a challenge in this industry, especially RailTel. This was a major problem because we were not in retail business. So we were always thinking that why can't we use these overhead structures for taking cable to the customers' premises. But now with the coming of this 5G and the commitment shown by the Government of India to take up ROW policy of late, though it was officially announced in 2016, but now it has been taken up as a mission mode, in a mission mode, this thing. And recently, the government has been interacting with all stakeholders, including government, be it government or municipal bodies or service providers. And the results are there. Now there is a Gati Shakti Sanchar portal, which is actually giving us results. And I'm hopeful that with the kind of involvement of government, with this kind of focus, it will certainly help 5G and 5G proliferation and taking the fruits of the telecommunication innovations and latest technology to the remote and rural areas of the country. That is all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay. I have a few questions, but I'll reserve them for after hearing all the panelists. I next move on to Mr. Sibin. He has been handling the Punjab government. It is a state which is a difficult state because of the borders with Pakistan and because of other reasons. So we'd like to hear from him as to how he looks at this issue of ROW, sitting where he is today.
Thank you, Dr. Kucha, and thank you to DIPA also, and my congratulations to Mr. Dua and the entire team of DIPA on the flagship event. It was much required event, and I know Mr. Dua from a quite long time, at least for the last 3 years. He had been pursuing with the state government, and not only Punjab, with the rest of the state government also, for the implementation of the amended ROW rule after 2016. So as you know, Punjab is one of the state with the highest tele density, and we had formulated a guidelines for the telecom in 2013 as well as amended in 2015. But after 2016 ROW amendment, we had to modify that guidelines according to the modified portions. So Mr. Dua and the company have been pursuing it, and after a prolonged time, we are one of the first state to basically completely align with the ROW amendment. So recently, again, ROW has 2022 amendment has come, and for the 5G rollout also, we are basically ready with our new guidelines. We had completely aligned with the new provisions in the amendment. So ROW has been one of the main, factors behind the coverage of the telecom throughout the country. But there are many practical difficulties in implementing the ROW rules, which I'll be able to share with you basically. That is mainly because there are multiple stakeholders are involved, many local bodies are involved, many issues are involved. So we had to convince those people, and we were successful in convincing them, and we have a wonderful policy of telecom guidelines now. And with the recent amendment, I think this 5G rollout will be easy. Street furnitures and government buildings are also being utilized. We had identified many things, and we had mapped in the national master plan of the PM Gati Shakti program also. So I think it will be now more easy. We had one of the portal, which was online portal, Invest Punjab portal, which was used for giving the permission. Now it is integrated with the Sugam Sanjay portal also, and it will be now again integrated with the PM Gati Shakti portal also. So these are some of the initiative Punjab government has taken, and we are receptive to any suggestions which are coming from the industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I move on to Mr. Sharma, and let's hear how he sees it sitting in Manipur.
First of all, I would like to thank DIPA for inviting me here, and I'm really honored to be part of this panel discussion with all the esteemed guests over here. Thank you very much for that. Now, from Manipur, we started this journey in 2019 when the policy was put in place with the guideline of the central policy. And then we had a lot of problem earlier because being a hilly state in a northeastern corner of India, it was not very easy for the infrastructure providers and telecom providers to install tower and provide connectivity. But with the event of Gati Shakti and with the event of the ROW nationwide, we were able to put in a policy and design a online portal, and which has helped us in into a great extent of clearing out all the NOCs and then which were pending from a long period of time. In fact, under the guidance of the PMO, we were one of the state who had cleared out all the ROW, pending ROW, and we were the first in the whole of India to clear out the whole of the ROW pending cases. Okay, so this was one of the achievements that the state has done. And going further, for the 5G rollout using the electric poles, bus station. It will be a long way to go for our state because what I like to mention here is till now we have so many villages which are still unconnected, which are not having any network. We have more than around 300 plus villages who are still struggling right now. This is because of the connectivity, road connectivity is not there. It is unable to reach. So 5G rollout will be a big challenge for all of us. However, the state government is ready. We are in the process of aligning all the policy with the new policy which has come out recently. So we are looking forward for this new venture. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jain, nice to hear from you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I thank Duaji and DIPA for giving me the opportunity to represent the industry on ROW panel. And I think this is this panel definitely is a very esteemed panel. And from an industry point of view, let me tell you what is ROW. ROW is right of way. And most of us who are long enough in telecom or infrastructure, we have been rolling out sites for long period of time. But there was no standard policies, or all states have their own policies and there are different rules and regulation followed across the country. So that was very challenging to roll out, and there were also a lot of delays in permission. So I think ROW rules came in 2016, and now I think it is being really modernized. Now there is a central direction very clearly to align these policies. So this is, I think, is a very welcome step from an industry point of view, and this is going to really help the industry to create world-class digital infra, which is required for the growth of the country and also to our PM mission of Digital India. I think this is a great enabler. Also, I think, let me, along with this ROW rules, I think various initiative by various states taken on making it on a portal where all this information is now digitalized. So most of the tower information or the site or fiber information is now digitalized. So it is very helpful to plan and make an organized way the structure for sites. That is, I think, is a core for any development on this digital infrastructure. So that's, I think, in my view, this is a very, very welcome step, and definitely it will help industry to roll out 5G in a very, very aggressive and very, very systematic way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. So having heard all the panelists and their views, it emerges very clearly that what has been done by the central government in the last 18 months is really commendable. And this has been done in conjunction with the industry and in consultation with the industry. Therefore, there is a buy-in of the industry, and which has speeded up things. The ROW problem, if I may say so, is not specific to 5G. This is what has come out from the opening remarks of all the panelists. This is more of creating an infrastructure, connecting various towers, and thereby giving so the canopy of network which has to be formed has to be enabled. Whether it is for 5G or 4G, we have to do that. And the main components of this which emerged is fiber and towers. And therefore, the steps which have been taken by the government are using technology to fill up the gaps which were not filled up by policy. Till very recently, policy directives were there from 2016. Guidelines were there, not being followed, right? And there were compulsions in state governments also why these are not being followed. So my question to all the panelists, and I would like each one of them to give their point of view. How much will the recent guidelines help in the absence of a legal framework? Because we are finding that it is a federal government. And in a federal structure of government, guidelines remain guidelines only. Unless there is backing of law, it is not enforceable. And the same thing happens with state government downwards. Whatever directives or guidelines are given by the state government may not be fully obeyed by the local authorities because of various reasons. So I'd like you to comment on this, whether these guidelines are enough or whether it requires backing of law, or if you feel there is an intermediate path which can be found where guidelines are implemented as desired, then what is it? Let me start with you, Mr. Sibin.
Yeah, so I fully agree with Dr. Kocha because legislation is really required. This because I can say an example. In our guidelines, basically, the guidelines are based on RoW rules. So guidelines, there is a provision to allow the coming up of towers in the buildings which are having structural safe certificate. But it was being challenged in the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, and they're given a stay on erection of towers on the buildings which are not being passed by the local bodies. So now there is a lot of pendency from our part only because of this issue. And when the issue came up in the High Court, they had basically gone through our guidelines, and one of the comments from the honorable judges were like, this is not a legislation, basically it's a guidelines. So I think it is really required, and this legislation, especially in the wake of the new amendment in the RoW rules, will definitely help, and states will also be ready being in the concurrent list. So I fully agree with that.
Thank you. I would go to Mr. Jain. Now, you heard the Secretary IT Punjab's give his point of view, which is very valid. My point is digging down a little deeper, that even if a central law is enacted, this telecom services are central jurisdiction, but the ancillaries around telecoms are with state governments. So a central law, will it be able to address all the issues that surrounding this RoW problem?
Yeah, it's a very, very, very valid point. I think this guidelines is going to help at least states to align their policies in the same direction. So I think that's a very welcome step, because in the absence of guideline, every state is going in different direction. So in my opinion, guideline will help them to definitely align. There are, I think the major issue is on cost. That's, I think, is a major, most of the points gets aligned, but the major difference is on cost. So probably since now central guidelines are talking very clearly on cost, state need to form policy, and in order to meet that objective of cost, probably a legislation is important, because otherwise every state has a right to impose their own fees. And then the cost of telecom infrastructure or digital infrastructure is going to go up, which is going to impact the cost of services to be provided to the nation. So that's, I think, is an important step. In my opinion, legislation is also important.
So what you are effectively saying is that guidelines is the first step, and the next step should be legislation. Now we are talking from industry point of view. Even what Mr. Sibin said is industry friendly. Let us hear from the government point of view. What are the problems they face in this aspect with industry? And what is it that they would like the industry to focus on so that things become simpler and smoother? Mr. Sharma?
Yeah, okay. From the state government perspective, just to cite an example, like before the policy was kicked in the state of Manipur, whenever the towers were installed, there was no proper direction who will be giving the RoW. So earlier it was being done by the municipalities, the district village heads, and so many other leaders who were there. And the validity of the ROW was not properly defined. And even we didn't have any paperwork being properly examined before the NOC was given. So, but then with the policy coming into picture, our state has made it very clear now that has to follow a certain rules, and also has to follow certain duration for every policy or for every initiative to be issued by the state government. So I feel that yes, it is very important that the legal backing and a compulsion from the central government with a proper guideline and proper direction should be kicked in, so that we can invite, we can request and make the telecom service a very success in state of Manipur as well as the northeastern part of India. So this will be great. Yeah.
So thank you. The follow-up question to you is, there is a provision in these guidelines that deemed approval, which was there earlier also, it never worked. You think deemed approval will work now with these guidelines in place and with automated systems in place?
Actually, regarding ROW, the policy guidelines, as other speakers, panelists have also highlighted the same fact, that those guidelines, though are important, but are not suffice to ultimately achieve the objectives. So this government has recently involved all the stakeholders, as I told earlier also, including all the even state governments, central government bodies, municipal bodies. So they are involving them, and then they are basically the question is being deliberated to how to resolve this, because this is the need of the hour. We can't delay it. And that involvement of each stakeholder along with the industry and service provider will certainly provide solution, because legislation, of course, will come, which is the efforts are on to bring legislation also, but then willingness to do the things have to be there. Legislation alone and guidelines alone will not help. Even once you get the ROW, later on you need to maintain the ROW also. There are many issues when many cases when the fiber is laid underground and then subsequently it is cut in the road widening or any other this thing. It becomes very difficult to restore it, and then months together it remains overhead. So then the SLAs are affected. So it's not only legislation or guidelines, but the need of the facility, need of the ROW will have to be continuously enforced in the minds of the stakeholders. And that, I think that government, with the efforts of government, like tools like Gati, Shakti, Sanchar portal, it will get reinforced, and it is very much possible, because efforts on this side have never been made with this kind of focus. This is the first time that the government is really doing a lot of efforts, and fruits will certainly come. Without the willingness of the stakeholders, this is not going to meet the objective. Deemed approval, sir, I think guideline, deemed approval is first thing, then comes guideline, then comes legislation, and then comes willingness. So deemed approval alone will not work unless the stakeholders are willing.
So since the onus is on the stakeholders, let me ask a rapid fire question to all of you. Please list out 3 things each you think should be done, which will improve ROW problems and reduce the gap between the aspirations of the state versus the aspirations of the industry. Let me start with you, Mr. Jain.
I think first of all states to be aligned on the policies, because the various states are giving, not meeting all the conditions. So that's, I think, alignment with the national policy is very, very important. Second, I think, in my opinion, we also need to facilitate a system. As I think a few of my colleagues said, there was application but was not tracked. So when we have a portal or some system, that system should be very foolproof. So we should, I think, use a very good portal which is workable and can be used. And in third, this thing, I think there should be a uniformity of fees across the states.
I think for us also, there should be a little special preference given to the northeastern state as we are still lagging behind. So that will be on the policy part, on the report that was generated. I think a special study should be done for the northeastern states as we are still lagging behind in terms of connectivity. And then, yes, the 60-day period of DIMA approval should be make a mandatory thing. We have already met in our portal, and I think that is a very important thing because that will help in the faster clearance of the NOC. And that's it from my side, only two facts, yeah.
So I also agree with that. Okay, there should be some uniform policy throughout the country. Basically, all the states should. I think there are many states which are still lagging. So they should come up and they should align their policy completely with the RoW rules. So that is the first thing which is required to have a uniform penetration throughout the country. Second is just like deemed approval should be there. Deemed approval provision is there in our policy also, but actually practically implementing is difficult when these issues like what I have explained here, like structural safety issues come up. Because most of the buildings in rural areas or, many of the buildings may not be having the approved plan. In that case, we have to back it up with the legislation. The third thing is basically we should have a clear-cut legislation which will be, applicable throughout the state. So these are the three issues. Thank you.
I think all the speakers have, though, address the question, but ultimately I again stick to the same thing, that the willingness of the stakeholders, including government bodies, municipal bodies, all the roadways, highways, railways, all will have to be part of this great movement to make this country, like digital divide has to get go away. Unless that happens, that willingness is the most, like the spirit part of it is that only. So I will again emphasize on the willingness of the stakeholders. If that is there, even legislation may not be there, but we can do that.
Thank you very much, Koshar Saab. I think everybody has said, while I was having tea, somebody asked me, bhai, एक तो अपने नॉर्थ से लिया है, एक ईस्ट से लिया है। नॉर्थ से अपने सिबिन साहब हैं, उधर से रॉबर्ट हैं। तो मेरे पास एकदम एक द आंसर दैट आई गिव, ये दोनों ही स्टेट ऐसी हैं जिन्होंने कि फर्स्ट टाइम इन्होंने इम्प्लीमेंट, जैसे पंजाब इम्प्लीमेंटेड, द वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग वाज द रेगुलराइजेशन ऑफ द एग्जिस्टिंग टावर्स. पंजाब वाज द फर्स्ट वन. एंड मणिपुर, subject to the regularization, they said, go ahead and do this. That was the thing. That is why we got both of them. Thank you very much, both of you. And secondly, I think while the complete ecosystem is getting into place, the issues will continue. There are few issues which are being addressed, like common duct is a very important issue, which I think it is the issue. Property tax which is being levied, which also needs to be addressed. And the third one is use of the poles by the discoms if we are really thinking of launching 5G in the near future. Because the spectrum is in place, the network will be in place, the equipment will be in place. The only thing what is needed is the infrastructure. These are the few things. Thank you so much, Kocha sir.
So all the panelists and Mr. Dua are more or less aligned on what is to be done and are appreciative of what has been done. What we are doing today and what we have discussed so far is primarily without taking into consideration what type of technology is being used, whether it's 4G, 3G, 2G, or 5G. But we have to keep in mind that with small cells coming in, the density of the cell size is going to increase, and therefore the criticality of carrying data backwards is all the more important, and therefore issues which today we can brush aside will not be able to be brushed aside as 5G rolls out. So we have to look at that. I'm told that the time is almost up, so we have a few minutes left for the audience if there are any questions.
So we have
Okay.
time for that one question only, sir. if you don't
Only
have
one
time.
question?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Goel?
Namaskar. Pranam. N.K. Goel, Chairman Tima. Not a question. I think we have a dichotomy. The program Digital India is made by center. It is center who emphasize for digital payment, connectivity, 5G, 6G, 7G. We have experience of manufacturing few years back, 6-7 years back, when one of the state started charging excise on telecom exchanges being put up by BSNL. Because it is assembly, so they should pay the excise. So what we have simply done, we gone to the state, met the chief minister. I said, from tomorrow, no equipment to your state. We are not bothered whether you get connectivity or not. I think the time has come now that let us say, if a state wants connectivity, let them be open and give up like Punjab or Manipur. Why should we cry for them? हिंदी में जैसे इलेक्शन होते हैं, हमें पानी चाहिए, बिजली चाहिए, हमको अब टेलीकॉम कनेक्टिविटी भी चाहिए. वो समय आ गया है. Thank you.
If you permit one more? Or no?
So we
No, we are,
definitely
sorry,
don't
there
have time.
is sort of time not permitted by the MC. Thank you, my co-panelists. It's been wonderful talking to you. And what comes out very clearly is that what has been done in the last few months and the direction taken by the central government, by DOT, in digitizing the solutions of RoW are commendable. But there are many, many more bridges to be crossed. And as we go along, there will be new problems which will come up. We'll have to jointly find solutions. Like Mr. Sanjay says, it is the human who's behind there, and if the willingness is there, we'll find solution. Otherwise, whatever legislation you may bring out, nothing will happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And let's put our hands together for that wonderful session. As I request Sri T.R. Duaji to kindly do the honors of presenting mementos to our eminent panelists, a token of gratitude and appreciation. We begin with our distinguished and eminent moderator, Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochar. Thank you, sir, for wonderfully moderating this session. We present to Sri Sanjay Kumar, CMD Railtel. To Sri Sibin C, IAS Director and Secretary, Department of Industries, Punjab. To Sri Robert Sharma, Director, IT Department, Manipur. And Mr. Vijay Jain, CEO, Tower Vision. Thank you, Mr. Vijay Jain, for joining us in this session. Thank you, Mr. Dua, for doing the honors. Can we have a quick group photograph of the panel before we move on to the next panel discussion? Ladies and gentlemen, kindly remain seated. We are straight away moving to the next panel. Just give us a few minutes while we arrange the top table for the next session.